Fuck you, game. I thought this is the answers arc. Why are we jumping over things again? All of the pieces from the game board were gathered. All of the humans, furniture, witches, and the witches on an even higher level had gathered in one place. Awesome music. That place was like a solemn cathedral with an unbelievably high ceiling, white stonework, golden ornaments. Though there were windows, there were no entrances or exits. It was a strange place. But for some reason, no one wondered where the strange place was, because they were not given the right to think of this place as strange.
The pieces, have they all been gathered?
Yes, they have.
Well done. What a show. I wonder just how many people there are here.
No matter how many we see, every being outside the 18 is a phantom. Making you acknowledge them is what my game is all about. The three witches were seated on special thrones set upon a very high balcony. Hold on, is she back now? When did that happen? In the center sat the Game Master, Lambda Delta, and on either side of the semicircular balcony sat Bernkastel and Beatrice facing each other. Below them, Erika ran forward, lifted the corners of her skirt and bowed respectfully.
Great Lady Lambda Delta, we thank you for granting our request for an assembly. And Great Lady Bernkastel, my master, please look forward to it. Though it may be only for a short while, I will most certainly make my master forget about the poison that torments her.
Yes, I am looking forward to it.
I'd expect no less from my double, my peace.
Erika and Bernkastel exchanged cruel smiles that would make anyone want to avert their gaze.
Listen up, witches and humans. I hereby announce that with this assembly of witches gathered, the Court of Illusions will now begin.
The commander of the game spoke with words of power. Though her words were spoken within such a vast space, they rang out with the force of a bell in a bell tower.
Your lives and roles as they correspond to this game are over. The fifth game is now closed, and the midnight, 12 o'clock answer session shall be... I wasn't sure how to read that. Well, I'd like to get started quickly, but why don't we have everyone quickly introduce themselves first? After all, there are so many people here. I'm Lambda Delta, the Witch of Certainty and the new commander of this game. Bernkastel, Witch of Miracles. My goal is to penetrate Beatrice's illusion of the witch.
I am the Endless Witch, Beatrice. My goals are to claim my own existence and to protect Natsuhi and Kinzo.
Battler-sama, you come next in rank.
I'm Ushirumi, a battler. I'm fighting against Beato's note against the witches. That's all.
As I believe you know, you joined in on this game partway through. At the time this assembly of witches opens, you have yet to participate. Do you understand?
I get it. You probably mean I don't have the right to speak for a while, right?
Thank you for your understanding.
Even though Battler had a rank near that of witches, he sat on the foremost of the benches shared with the other relatives, all by himself at one end. He met the gaze of Beato, who was up on the balcony.
You might have said you were my arch enemy.
Well, you aren't necessarily my only enemy.
Huh. Let's take this game back. It belongs to us.
Yeah. I almost said I was fighting against Beato's illusion of the witch. Since the beginning, Beato has been our only enemy. But right now, Erika and those witches who started toying around with Beato's tail are also my enemies. Who should I fight and how? Maybe it's a good thing I don't have the right to speak for a while. I'll calm down and coolly watch over everything.
I am the detective and the one who called for this assembly of witches, Furoro Erika. I will expose the culprit of the fifth game and stick a charming period on the end of this tale.
Erika greeted the witches above her and the humans behind her once again.
I'm also looking forward to it. Okay, remaining pieces, introduce yourself in whatever order. Humans, introduce yourselves, all of you.
When 45 urged him to introduce himself, Kinzo stood up.
I'm Ushinomiya Kinzo. I slipped out of the study window and am hiding somewhere on Rokkenjima. Ushinomiya close. Currently I have been captured and am being confined somewhere.
I'm Ushinomiya Ifa. I'm alive.
I'm Rudolph. The rest of us are all Ushiromiyas too, so I'll leave with the family name.
I'm Ushiru Rosa. I was killed on the first twilight. Jessica. I also died on the first twilight.
I'm George. I also died on the first twilight.
Maria. I died, but look, I'm here talking. See? Dying isn't a big deal, right? I'm Ushirumi Natsui. I am alive.
Hideyoshi here. I was killed just a short while ago.
Kyria, I'm still alive.
Ninja, I'm also hanging in there.
My name is Genji. I passed away in the first twilight.
I'm Shannon. I'm still alive.
I'm Kanon. I'm also alive.
I'm Goda. Pleased to meet you, everyone.
I'm Kumasawa. Pleased to meet you. Now on to the witches. Everyone introduce yourselves.
Virgilia's group could also be seen. Unlike the floor Beatrice's group was on, the second floor had a balcony that looked like raised audience seating, and they sat there looking down as though they were at a theater.
My name is Virgilia. I am Beatrice's teacher.
She always falls from her black holes.
I'm Gab. I'm making corpses. Sorry, disappears my job.
I'm Renov. I'm in charge of making black tea.
I greet you in the name of the Seven Sisters of Purgatory. I served in the murder of Hideyoshi in the Second Twilight. Seven Sisters of Purgatory, right here. Let us then have Lady Erica's furniture introduce themselves. Gertrude, I am an assistant inquisitor of heresy. Cornelia, I am an assistant inquisitor of heresy.
The two of them could also be seen on the second floor audience seating. They sat apart from Virgilia's group. Then Glenner, who was seated between the two, slowly stood up. She had a presence and dignity about her as though she was overseeing everything from that place.
Glenner Anox is my name. I am Lady Erica's primary assistant. Battler, I expect much from you. Please don't disappoint me.
Let's just both give it all we've got.
Most of the time there will be no need for Glenner to step forward. However, when the witch side plays around with ugly word games, I'll need to have Glenner convict them. A miracle like the one in the study won't happen again.
You say that now.
And finally, let us introduce ourselves. We are the Chester Sisters Imperial Guards who have been tasked with management of proceedings at this assembly of witches. Hello, everyone.
This ends the introduction of all pieces. A total of 38 people are present here. There are 38 characters in the 5th game, but if you added all the pieces from previous games too, it would probably rise even higher. This game, which has so often been likened to chess, now has far more pieces than a chessboard.
Very well, then I guess we'll get started. Let the person who called this meeting begin. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Goat. Refill my drink.
And some popcorn for me.
Yeah, that's right. The one who decided demons ought to eat popcorn when watching it play was you, after all. Yes, I intend to enjoy this. And could I get some black tea and mustard miso? Erica, begin. I'm already starting to get bored. Yes, my master, leave it to me. Order, silence.
At the sound of her voice, the Chester Sisters core straightened up, lifted their right knees, and stamped down hard on the floor with their heels. And then fell through the floor because it wasn't very sturdy. It became a low, deep rumble in the ground, and all chatter in the cathedral disappeared instantly, as their eyes and expressions became even more hollow and empty. The room fell back into silence, almost as though they were a collection of wax models. Amidst this heavy silence, there was the sound of footsteps, as Erica walked out into the center where she could catch everyone's attention. When she signaled with her chin, a goat attendant appeared from behind a pillar and carried a single plain chair out into the front and center of the room. It must have been the defendant's chair.
I, Fururo Erica, will make an accusation. The murder of the 5th game is...
Ushirumi Anatsui-san. Yeah, but that's where you're wrong. You already lost. You are the culprit. Erica pointed at Natsuhi and spoke. The Natsuhi waxed all alone, shook and regained his expression. It was an expression of panic.
Chester Sisters, please take the defendant to her chair. Understood.
Wait, what are you doing?
Let go of me.
45 and 410 both pinned Natsuhi's arms behind her back and led her to the chair in the center. Natsuhi resisted, but the Schiester sisters were surprisingly strong and she couldn't do anything. She turned to the relatives for help, but they just remained silent like wax models. I, Furuta Erika, will now reconstruct why the crime was only possible for Ushirumi and Natsuhi. Beato, of course, you'll be challenging this, right? Naturally. I am the Ushirumi family alchemist, Beatrice the Golden. Furuta Erika, I challenge you. I'll take these false accusations you're trying to place on my master and tear them apart. Beatrice. Fear not, Natsuhi. You are my master, and you are the true head with the one-winged eagle engraved in your heart. Do not fear a crime you have not committed. At those words, Natsuhi jerked back and gulped. Her panic finally disappeared and she stood up straight. That's true. I am Ushirumi Natsuhi. I will confront any challenge that would disgrace the Ushirumi family. How can you try a bluff like that in a situation like this? You really are the bullied kid in every single fragment. So, Baron, make your claims. I, Baron Castle, claim that the human Ushirumi Natsuhi is the culprit of this game. And you too, Beato, okay? I, Beatrice, claim that the culprit in this game is not human. I am the culprit. Baron Castle, who smiled daringly, and Beatrice, who smiled firmly, crossed gazes. Listen, witches and humans. Two claims have appeared for a single truth. Is the culprit a human, Ushirumi Natsuhi? Is the culprit a witch, Beatrice? If the witch wins, the truth about the fifth game will disappear into darkness. If Erika wins, the illusion of the witch will be wiped from the game board. In other words, for Beato alone, this is a battle that must not be lost. Are you prepared? And what am I supposed to be preparing myself for? This has always been just what I wanted. If Erika wins, the illusion of the witch will be destroyed. That means the existence of the witch will be denied. Beato was fighting for her life. However, this wasn't the only time she had been fighting for her life. It had always been a life-or-death struggle, even when she fought with Battler. Because if Battler had won and destroyed the illusion of the witch in the previous games, Beato would have been destroyed. That's dirty. Erika alone has nothing to lose if she fails. I wonder, Lady Berncastle is not a compassionate person. I can't imagine she'd give warm treatment to a piece that didn't perform to her expectations. It was inconceivable that the ruthless Berncastle would place no blame at all on the piece who had suffered defeat. Erika was probably fighting for her life just as much. The two claims would clash and one would be weeded out, one would fall and would not leave this place alive. The only ones who truly had nothing to lose were those witches. Okay, no problems. Get started. In that case, I would like to go first. The murder of Hideyoshi-san is very simple. It should be impossible to suspect anyone other than Natsuhi-san. Except for the victim and Natsuhi-san, all of us were in the same room, correct? It really was simple. Except for Natsuhi, everyone had been inside the parlor, and because it was so simple, it was decisive. No matter how you look at it, the one who killed Hideyoshi was Natsuhi. No, it's the other way around. No matter how you look at it, no one except for Natsuhi could have killed Hideyoshi. There's no room for discussion or debate. I'm telling you, that's a mistake. Maybe I don't have an alibi. However, I don't believe a lack of an alibi proves that one is the culprit. We know that Natsuhi is the only one without an alibi. But wait, the scene of the murder was a closed room. It should have been impossible for anyone, including Natsuhi, to have committed the crime in that room. Except for me, since I could have done it with magic. I'll explain the closed room trick, the how-done-it, later. For the time being, I'll start with a who-done-it. Because of the aforementioned, it is impossible to suspect any character except Natsuhi-san regarding the murder of Hideyoshi-san.
Milady, it may be dangerous to press any further on this.
I agree. The fact that Natsuhi was hiding in the closet of Hideyoshi's room, when it comes to repeating things in red, they'll check to see who's in the room and you'll be cornered. Probably. Lady Lambda Delta is the commander of this game. If it suits her fancy, she'll set up Natsuhi as the culprit regardless of the facts. If the typhoon passes and the police come to perform a scientific investigation, perhaps the true culprit will be identified and the false accusations against Natsuhi will be lifted. However, in this closed off Rokkanjima, the police will not arrive for all eternity. In other words, the real truth will not be revealed. Inside the cat box, this cat box that will never be opened, false charges that everyone accepts are worth no more or less than the truth.
Their aim is most likely to use the simple murder of Hideyoshi to give the impression that Natsuhi-sama is the culprit, before moving on to the first trial of the reconstruction, which has more uncertain elements.
It's not good at all to move forward with the Game Master suspecting us. We should take the initiative.
Sure. Lady Lambda Delta, as you are well aware, a fair number of murders were committed during the 5th game, and we are skipping the rather lengthy chunk of time from midnight until the early morning. Skipping to Hideyoshi's murder and stepping backwards and forwards in time will only lead to confusion. It is my belief that we should follow events chronologically and in order, though the decision is yours, of course. Objection. Ace Attorney now. Objection. In the process of prosecuting the culprit, chronological order has no significance. Objection. Fudo no Erika is trying to mix up the chronological sequence in order to create a false impression of the events. Well, I'm not a fan of confusing things myself. I accept Piero's claim. Erika started with the first twilight instead of jumping to the second. I definitely saw Erika click her tongue. I understand. So this is a way of telling what Kenjima's tale. I was guided by Vigilia, met Beatrice, reached the peak from which you can see everything below you, and finally understood the truth of this world. This is that thing you were talking about earlier, Vigilia. Yes, that's right. Truth is very fragile in this place. As long as each side makes its own claim, different truths can exist at the same time. Yes, this really is a trial. Both sides put forth their own truth. This here truly is the brown tube trial that Vigilia once used as an analogy. Then I will follow Lady Lambda Delta's orders and start from the first crime at the first twilight. Fine. As you know, at midnight on October 4th, the first day, following a short break in the family conference, Natsuhi left on her own saying that she was going to bed early. Therefore, her alibi is completely lost from that time until the next morning. The culprit is Oshirumi and Natsuhi because Natsuhi is the only one without an alibi. I like how they present that to you as a huge black text on white. Oh, is that so? I believe there are several people besides Natsuhi who have dubious alibis. Unless you can clear suspicion from all of them, I cannot allow you to call Natsuhi the culprit. We cannot conclude that Natsuhi is the culprit as long as there are other people without alibis. Holy shit. The claim has been made that Natsuhi was the only one lacking an alibi between midnight and 1 o'clock. This is being used as a basis for claiming that she is the culprit. However, as long as the following possibilities exist, it is impossible to conclude that this is the case. Was the crime also possible for Batla, who was in the guest house? Was the crime also possible for Nanjo, who was in the guest house? Or Goda, who was in the guest house? Kumasawa, who was in the guest house? Genji, who was in the mansion? Or was it possible for Klaus, who was in the mansion? Was it possible for the people in the mansion besides Natsuhi? Is it possible George and the others were actually just playing dead? Is it possible that there was a way to reach the second floor without passing through the lounge Erika was in? Is it possible that the crime was committed before midnight? Or is it possible that the crime was committed after 3 o'clock? Is it possible that the crime was committed outside the time span of midnight to 1 o'clock? How does that differ from the other things? Is it possible that someone in the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3 o'clock? True. If Erika's gonna call Natsuhi suspicious so confidently, she's first gonna show that everyone else has an alibi, right, Burn? Yes, of course. Erika will explain that perfectly. The culprit is Oshirumi and Natsuhi because we will prove that everyone else has an alibi. Will you? Of course, my master. In that case, I would like to explain things in order. Let's forget about Genji's murder for now and focus on the crime in the guest house. For this case, you would like to suspect the servants who were in the guest house, right? On that night, Goda-san and Kumasawa-san were there. Isn't that right, you two? When she turned her face the direction where those two were seated, those two wax models alone came back to life. They probably weren't even granted souls until they were allowed to speak. In that case, it would have been better if Natsuhi's soul could have disappeared as well. Natsuhi, who was in the defendant's chair, kept her soul the whole time, and was constantly hanging her head, looking nervous. Goda hurried to his feet and answered Erika's question. Yes, that is correct. On that evening, I was alone in the guest house servant room. Well, look at my age. Staying up all night would be a heavy burden, so I returned to the waiting room in the guest house and went to bed right away on my own. Yes, yes. Doesn't that mean Goda and Kumasawa have lost their alibis? Kumasawa claims that she was sleeping alone in the waiting room. Goda claims he was alone in the servant room. Either of them should have had enough time to go to the cousin room and commit murder. Nonsense. Why would we do something like that? That's right, that's right. How could I ever kill someone? We cannot conclude that Natsuhi is the culprit. After all, was the crime also possible for Kumasawa or Goda?
Natsui said it all. Both Kumasawa, who was sleeping alone in the waiting room, and Goda, who was alone in the servant room, are in the exact same situation as Natsuhi in her room. Both of them have lost their alibis. Have no fear. I guarantee that neither of these two are murderers. First off, following dinner, Kumasawa-san left the mansion with me and the others and went to the guest house, entered the waiting room, and slept until morning. It's the same for Goda-san. Once he finished with his job, he chatted with others in the lounge and went to sleep afterwards. Neither of them had the opportunity to commit murder. Huh. So we're finally here. Why are we so certain again that the murder was between, like, was not after everybody went to bed? Also, I really need to use the toilet real quick. Way too much tea. I'll be right back. Cat is still sleeping. I see it's time for me to stand up as well. Your turn is over already, Erika. Go summon that bodyguard you rely on so much. Oh, Beato glanced at where Leonard sat on the second floor audience seating. However, Leonard just stared back with those usual expressionless eyes. Repeat it. We have absolute proof of Goda and Kumasawa's alibis. We refuse. Why give a hint to an enemy? There's no way we'd answer. Aha. Did you hear that, Lady Lambda Delta? They say they have no proof. How could they claim that Goda and Kumasawa have alibis without proof? Good point. What do you say, Baron Erika? How can you claim that Goda and Kumasawa have alibis? Fall back, Erika. My opponent is Lena over there. A mere human like you can be no match for a witch. No, there's no need for Lena to step forward. In fact, it's precisely because a mere human will defeat a witch that the illusion of the witch will now be denied. So, go ahead. Use the red and blue as much as you like. I'm ready for it, okay? In response to Erika's challenge, Beato smiled boldly yet gracefully and slowly stood up. And they glared at each other between the floor and the balcony. Goda and Kumasawa have no alibis. The two of them were in the guest house and could have reached the cousin room to commit murder at any time. Unless you can deny that possibility, you cannot treat Natsuhi as the culprit. Beato's blue truth stuck out rapidly. The curtain had finally dropped and the battle had begun. A human like Erika can't use any red. How could she turn this around without calling Leonard?
No, Erika. Though Erika cannot use it, her master, Lady Bancastle, can. We mustn't let our guards down.
No truth valid. Well, you two, Burn. Will you or Leonard step in instead?
It is still not my turn, and it is not Lady Bancastle's turn either.
Yes, that's right.
There's no need for us to show up for something like this.
This is important precisely because a mere human like Furudo Erika will defeat you, Beato. Because you'll be defeated by a human who will know. We'll all know that the fake witch who calls herself Beatrice the Golden is nothing more than a subhuman phantom.
If you really could do that, it would be totally entertaining.
Very well, Erika. Let's see what you've got.
Explaining it for the first person, Kumasawa-san, is extremely simple. Kumasawa-san, stand.
Yes.
Kumasawa-san, from the time you went to bed last night to the time you were informed about the crime in the morning, did you ever leave the waiting room?
No, I was sound asleep until morning, I really was.
The truth is, after dinner last night, I had a chat with Ifa-san and she told me something very interesting. I tried that out myself. And what exactly is that? You don't mean...
That's right.
It's what cornered and sealed Kenzo in his study.
I learned that you can create a seal by putting something between the door and the frame.
Ah. Are you kidding? Did she actually do that to Kumasawa-san's waiting room? Erika was in the guest house, so there's no obstacle to her having been capable of that.
After all, it was an unsettling night and a massive amount of gold had just been discovered. Many sorts of crimes might have occurred. Where there is a detective, there will be a crime. I foresaw that some kind of crime would take place, so I used this to seal away people whose alibis might otherwise be lost.
Erika held a small folded piece of brown paper high in the air.
After I watched Kumasawa-san, who returned to the guest house with me, say goodnight and enter the waiting room, I used this to seal the door. Then in the morning, when the crime was discovered and caused a big uproar, I immediately went to check Kumasawa-san's waiting room, where I confirmed that the seal was still set. Therefore, I can prove Kumasawa-san's alibi.
Kumasawa has an alibi. Okay, taken off the list. I see.
Good, though. A wonderful alibi, not a single gap. Kumasawa returned to the guest house with Erika, went to the waiting room to sleep, and never left the room until morning. In other words, after Kumasawa returned to the guest house, she never went to the second floor until morning. The proof Erika had shown was elevated by Bernkastel and became red truth. This truth, which had become red, could no longer be overturned, even by Beato. In other words, in that instant, Kumasawa's perfect alibi had been absolutely guaranteed.
Ho ho, then what about Goda?
Goda-san holed up in the servant room right after reaching the guest house. I sealed him up in the same way. Then when Rosa-san returned at 1 a.m., I happened to notice her when I stepped out into the corridor. I let Goda-san, who was still in the servant room, know this. At that moment, the seal was still in place, so from the time we arrived at the guest house until 1 a.m., Goda-san never left the servant room. And afterwards, he was with me in the lounge until 3 a.m. And after 3 a.m., I was on the second floor, so I can guarantee that Goda-san didn't come up to the second floor. Erika's seal proves that Goda was holed up in the servant room until 1 a.m., and Erika has proven his alibi from then until 3 a.m., since she was passing the time in the lounge with him. And Erika has also proven that he never set foot on the second floor until the morning after. In other words, after Goda returned to the guest house, he never went up to the second floor until morning.
Okay.
Red truth valid. Well done, Erika. The alibi due to your seal on the door has been acknowledged by Baron and elevated to the status of red truth. Thank you very, very much, my master. I am the detective. I may be human, but I can use the red truth despite that and surpass humans. So now you claim to have surpassed humans. It's 1,000 years too early for you to talk like that, conceited brat. It'll be a pain to have you try anything funny, so I'll make this clear now. In fact, I should have done this in the beginning. I apologize for being so roundabout. This is the situation around the guest house at midnight. The goat was found, an emergency family meeting was called for, and Betlao-san went to the mansion of the relatives. I, the three cousins, Dr. Nanjo, Goda-san, and Kumasawa-san remained in the guest house. I have already explained Goda-san and Kumasawa-san's alibis. George-san, Jessica-san, and Maria-san were playing cards in the cousin room. I actually joined them for just a little bit, and I clearly witnessed that they were alive at that time. My master, I ask that you repeat this. Yes, I'll respond. At midnight in the guest house, George, Jessica, and Maria were alive, and in the second floor cousin room, Nanjo, Goda, and Kumasawa were on the first floor. And since there is no need to hold off on it anymore, I'll confirm that all the victims so far are dead. George, Jessica, Maria, Rosa, and Genji really are dead. How could they be playing dead with their fucking necks sliced open like that?
No murder occurred before midnight. We guarantee that George's group is dead. So that's gone too. That's gone as well.
Thanks for repeating that, my master. May I lick your shoes? If we hadn't made these things clear, you might have started going on about how they were already dead before I guaranteed everyone's alibis, or that they weren't actually dead at all.
God. Unsurprisingly, Beato's side couldn't get away with the simple plan of claiming that the victims were only playing dead. But in order to overcome Goda and Kumasawa's alibis, it should have been possible to suppose that the crime occurred before those doors were sealed. However, the opponent had predicted this move perfectly. It had been shown in red that the crime did not occur before the time period covered by Erika's alibis.
Got it. That's the last time the victims were confirmed to be alive. I wish you'd said that at the beginning. This means we can ignore everything that happened before midnight. To go.
Yeah, I guess we can.
To go even further,
Yeah. To go even... I just had a thought, but no.
at midnight, Natsuhi, Klaus, and Genji were in a corridor on the second floor of the mansion.
Okay.
All the remaining people were at the family conference in the dining hall. Of course, at that point in time, no murder had occurred. Genji was also alive. We confirm that those thought to be inside the mansion at midnight were indeed inside the mansion. Addendum, it has already been shown that none of them left the mansion before 1, excluding Natsuhi. This isn't something Erika observed, but we can't move the game forward without settling it. Very well, I'll acknowledge that red truth. Thank you very much for the red truth, my master. Since Erika had been in the guest house, it was only natural that she could explain the situation there. However, since she hadn't been in the mansion at the time, Explaining the situation over there would have been extremely difficult for her. Beato would normally have attacked there with the blue truth, saying that the people in the dining hall had all agreed to keep to the same story, that someone had snuck out of the dining hall and that they might have committed murder in the guest house. However, because Bern had instantly settled that matter with the red text, Beato had completely lost her chance to strike back. Damn it.
Very troublesome. To think we would be put at such a disadvantage.
This is almost the exact opposite of Lisa's fights with Balor.
In fact, the situation might be even worse than it was back then.
At a glance, the fight between the two of them resembled our previous fights. However, there were some vital differences. The first was whether or not Beato was the Game Master. The Beato who fought against me was the Game Master, so she knew all the truth. That's why she was able to use the red text at will. However, the current Beato isn't the Game Master. She's just a single piece on the game board. So that's why she's alive and not a doll, because it's the game board piece. I mean, they said that at the beginning. I should have just paid attention. In other words, even Beato doesn't know the truth, so you could say that Beato is now in the same position I once was. Also, though Erica may seem to be in the same position I once was, the situation for her is totally different. She's connected to the witch called Biancasto. Even though she isn't the Game Master, she's capable of elevating Erica's statements to become Red Truth. Because of this, Erica can use the Red Truth even though she's neither a witch nor the Game Master. Beato, who's supposed to be the witch, possesses no truth, no red she can use. And yet the detective Erica can use the Red Truth. The advantage has completely flipped over to the other side. Perhaps you could say that the current Beato is in a much worse position than I was when I fought with her. After I got used to the game, Beato stopped responding to my demands that she use the red, but in the beginning she had responded to almost all of them, giving me quite a few hints. That's why we were able to fight on par. However, Biancasto is different. She fully understands the rules of this game and is prepared to corner Beato without even a hint of restraint, and because of this I knew. In the past, Beato went easy on me so that we could fight on par with each other. This has become quite an amusing fight. I see, so I must fight from the position Bettler once stood in.
Beato.
In the past, I've insulted you and called you incompetent. I can handle much worse than this. It's now impossible to suspect Gora and Kumasawa. You can't win by arguing that point any longer. Yes, let's switch to a different approach.
The next in line will probably be Nanjo. He was also in the guest house.
Nanjo was in the lounge with Erica. However, I believe the time periods before and after that have been left open. That's right, I'll strike there. Nanjo, you were relaxing in the first floor lounge of the guest house with Erica and Gora, correct?
Was the crime also possible for Nanjo, who was in the guest house?
Yes, I was with Erica-san the whole time.
And during what time was this?
From 1 a.m. to 3 a.m.
Yes, that's right. It was the period between 1 and 3. Dr. Nanjo Gora-san and I were relaxing in the lounge. Repeated, my master.
Okay, what about the time before?
I respond. From 1 to 3 a.m., Erica, Nanjo, and Gora spent their time in the lounge on the first floor of the guest house.
Though she had flat out refused to repeat what Beato told her to, she responded to Erica's demand immediately. The Red Truth was starting to corner Beato. She grimaced as though in pain, but she still struck back with the Blue Truth. No, perhaps she really was in pain. Now that the characters apart from Natsuhi have had their alibis established, the illusion of the witch is also being denied. Beato perceived the denial of her existence as pain.
Even so, he shouldn't have an alibi for the time period before and after you were in the lounge. It was possible for Nanjo to commit the crime too. That's right. I get that Nanjo was in the lounge with Erica from 1 to 3, but what about before and after that? What about that Erica? Yes, first the alibi for before 1 a.m. This is no problem at all. I played cards with the cousins in the room until midnight, and then went downstairs to the lounge where I met Dr. Nanjo.
That's right. At midnight, I met Erica-san after she came down the stairs and spoke with her, learning that she was quite the connoisseur of the mystery genre. I realized that I'd found a kindred spirit.
When I went into the library to solve the epitaph riddle, I noticed that there were several original copies of famous foreign mystery novels stored there. I wanted to discuss them with the actual books in hand. We moved to the library and were talking the whole time, constantly until we moved to the lounge.
Damn. Crammed though it was, that book storage room in the guest house was stocked well enough that it was fair to call it a small library. In it were several famous foreign mystery novels that Kinzo had once taken a liking to. Of course they were all originals and in English, but English was no problem for either Erica or Nanjo. For this occasion they had borrowed the key to the library one more time from Gora in the servant room. At that point, Erica checked the seal again and of course reset it. Damn her. Even though she keeps it sealed for anyone else to enter or leave, she alone enters and leaves whenever she wants.
I see. So from midnight until 3 a.m. when you went to sleep, you were with Nanjo the whole time. That means Nanjo's alibi is the most rock solid of them all.
Well, unless we prove that it might have been possible after 3 o'clock. Why exactly are we saying again that it must have been before 3 a.m.?
Yes, that's it exactly. My master repeated.
I'll respond. After midnight, Erica was with Nanjo the whole time until 3 a.m. At midnight, the crime in the cousin room still hadn't occurred, so this way an alibi had been established for the period before the time they were in the lounge. After that, we talked out of the library and into the hall. We walked out of the library and into the hallway at 1 a.m. When we did, we just happened to bump into Rosa-san as she returned. I then told... Okay, so Rosa was still alive at that point. I then told Goda-san about that. I figured it was probably a servant's responsibility to welcome in a guest. Goda asked if he should bring a towel, but Rosa refused. She quickly headed up to the second floor. At this point, Erika, Goda, and Nanjo gathered together and decided to have a drink. Their alibis in the lounge up until 3 a.m. have already been proclaimed in red, so there are no problems there. Let's continue on to after 3 a.m. This is Dr. Nanjo's alibi after we split up. At 3 a.m., Bella-san returned and the people in the lounge went their separate ways. Dr. Nanjo, Bella-san, and I went up to the second floor. I then said goodnight to Dr. Nanjo. At this time, of course, I put a seal on the door to the doctor's room as well. Yeah, but who's to say that they didn't put the seal back there themselves? I wonder if that's possible. Like, is it just from the outside, so you cannot... I don't know. And it went unchanged until the crime was discovered. I flew out of my room at the same time as Bella-san's scream and checked to see that the door to Dr. Nanjo's room was still sealed. Therefore, Dr. Nanjo's alibi is perfect both before 1 and after 3. Okay, Nanjo has an alibi. Not looking good, is it? Splendid, Erika. Both your seal and your red truth are perfect. Nanjo had the alibi of being with Erika until 3 a.m. and he didn't leave his room after 3 a.m. until morning. Erika made use of the seals on the doors and was granted red truth from Bernkastel one after another. Yeah, that's so after 3 a.m. I still think, I mean, I know I originally thought that Bella went to sleep among corpses, but if we want to claim that it was somebody other than Natsui, then I think the best point of attack would be after 3 o'clock, wouldn't it? Because it seems to be very gray area after 3 o'clock. I mean, we already have Nanjo ruled out because of the stupid seal, even after 3 o'clock, but what about the other people? For me, demanding that Beato repeat something had been about maneuvering and tactics, but it's wholly different for Erika. For her, it's like having a trump card that can make red whenever she wants. This concludes the proof of alibis for all suspects in the guest house. Any problems? I do have a problem, and that problem is, Beato racked her brains to find some point to latch onto, but Erika's red had been ruthlessly perfect. There was no point she could take issue with. Beato kept thinking hard, trying to fault Erika on something, but her expression was so wrought with desperation that anyone could tell by looking. Beato's complaint is rejected. I can't sense any problems at all. It's totally pop, cute, and perfect. Alibis for all humans in the guest house have now been proven. Wait a sec, Erika. Are you trying to leave me out of this? Ushido Miyabella also should have had a chance to commit the crime. After all, I was in the same room as the victims all night. I'm not gonna let you skip past this part while ignoring me. Huh? Oh damn. At that time an arrow twisted like a golden snake and hit me. It didn't pierce through me, but it slapped me hard on the cheek like a whip. Bella-sama, your right to speak has not yet been recognized. Be warned. Oh damn it. Yeah, I understand, Bella. And my apologies, forgive me. Erika, you still haven't shown an alibi for Bella. Bella is the man who was sleeping alongside the victims. Shouldn't he be placed under suspicion more than anyone else? Was the crime also possible for Bella, who was in the guest house? Beata's right. You can't go skipping Bella like that. My apologies, I had completely forgotten.
After Bella returned at 3 a.m., you went up to the second floor with him, and I believe you also went to your own room and slept. You may have gone to the cousin room at midnight, but I don't think you went there after 3 a.m. Will you now claim that you went to crawl into Bella's bed later on? Well, if you say you were looking at Bella's sleeping face all night long to confirm his alibi in the cousin room, then I'd accept it, right?
I'm sorry, what?
Yes, I listened to him breathing in his sleep all night long. Got a problem with that?
What?
I, Furuno Erika, can prove that Batla-san returned to the cousin room at 3 a.m., that he went straight to bed afterwards, and that he went straight to sleep. And I can prove that until he woke up and noticed the gruesome situation the room was in and let out a scream, nothing happened in that room. So you have no need to worry. Batla-san isn't the culprit. He's just the charming first discoverer who entered the murder scene without realizing it was one and slept until morning.
That's insane. It shouldn't be possible for you to prove that with those seals you love so much. How can you prove this? That's ridiculous. At that time I entered the room alone. Erika probably went into her room too. How can she say something like that as though she saw the whole thing?
She never said she saw it. The room Erika was assigned to, where was it located? Erika, please tell me, how can you prove so much about Batler?
One second. Okay, I got some weird noise in the music for a second. I thought maybe there's some issue with the recording, but it seems to be good.
I'd expect no less from a true detective. My room was right next to the cousin room. There was only a single thin wall between them.
You don't mean... You put your ear against the wall to check what was happening in the cousin room?
Yes, my ears are perfect. Right after Batla-san entered the room, I put my ear against the wall and checked to make sure nothing strange happened.
Yeah, but you didn't do that all night, did you?
You said you could prove that nothing happened until Bat let out a scream the next morning. You don't mean... Yes. I put my ear against the wall and listened in on that room until morning without sleeping a wink.
You need some therapy, girl. Everyone was stunned into silence. She put her ear against the wall, and for the entire time until morning, she listened to what was going on in Bella's room. Just what would that have looked like? Until dawn, she had killed her breathing in a pitch-black room, clinging to the wall shared with the cousin room, like some kind of creepy venomous spider clinging to the wall of a darkened room. That's a good analogy.
Baron Castell alone was grinning in triumph. Due to the progression of the game, I realized that Batla, the one who had received the head's ring, would be a key player. I was sure that Batla would be a victim of the first Twilight. Yes, so just as my master told me to do, I put my ear against the wall until morning without a wink of sleep, checking to make sure nothing unusual happened. Erika has a photographic memory, and her hearing ability is on par with the tape recorder. It would have been impossible for him to deceive Erika's ears, either to kill George and the others or to make those wounds on their throats. It was impossible for Bella to commit the crime. Okay. Looking so good for us right now, I gotta say. It's an accepted power of the detective's authority. I have no choice but to acknowledge it. I'll confirm it in red. Yoshinomiya Batla returned to the cousin room at 3 a.m. and fell asleep. After that, until the discovery of the crime, absolutely nothing out of the ordinary happened in the room. In other words, it was impossible for Batla to commit murder or damage the corpses.
The red from the pair forced Beato to show an expression of considerable anguish. It was only natural. Those red truths not only guaranteed Bella's alibi, but a number of other things as well. First off, it meant the murder was impossible for anyone after 3 a.m. Now I see why. Now I see why it was impossible after 3 a.m. because she was listening the whole time. And since the cousins were confirmed to be alive as late as midnight, the time period of the crime automatically became between midnight and 3. That meant the alibis for all people who weren't in the guest house before 3 a.m. had also been guaranteed automatically. It is impossible for the crime to have occurred after 3 o'clock.
That one hurts a lot.
After midnight, Erika was in the guest house the whole time, so it should have been difficult for her to prove alibis for all of the people in the mansion.
It should have been almost impossible to prove alibis for Eva and the others, but now all she has to do is prove that they never visited the guest house between midnight and 3, and she can prove those alibis. Wasn't sure who said that.
Anyway, we'll have to construct it so that the murders were possible before 3 a.m., and we have to prove that it was possible for one of the people in the mansion to do it.
The people who had been in the guest house all had alibis. The crime didn't occur before midnight. The crime couldn't have occurred after 3. In other words, there was no way for the murders to happen unless someone from the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3. Is it possible that someone in the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3 a.m.?